The small apartment on the third floor of the building had thin walls. Every morning at 6, the neighbors could hear it. The sound of piano keys, crisp and clear, floating through the hallways like birdsong. Some people complained at first. Too early, they said. But after a few weeks, something changed. They started opening their doors just to listen. Because the person playing wasn't just making noise. They were creating something beautiful. Inside apartment 3B, an 8-year-old girl sat at an old upright piano. Her feet barely touched the floor. She had to sit on 2 cushions just to reach the keys properly. Her name was Lily Wong, and she was doing something that most adults couldn't do. Her small fingers moved across the black and white keys with a speed and grace that seemed impossible for someone so young. The piece she was playing was by a composer named Chopin, a man who had been dead for over 100 years but whose music still made people cry. Lily's mother stood in the kitchen making breakfast. She had to be at the factory by 8, and her husband had already left for his shift that started at 7. They made car parts, both of them, standing on their feet all day in a loud building that smelled like oil and metal. Neither of them had ever touched a piano before Lily came into their lives. Her mother still remembered the day they realized their daughter was different. It was 3 years ago. Lily was 5 years old, barely old enough for kindergarten. They had taken her to a friend's house for dinner. The friend had a piano in the living room, an expensive one that nobody really played. It just sat there looking fancy. While the adults talked and ate, Lily wandered over to it. She climbed onto the bench and started pressing keys. Random notes at first, the way any curious child would. But then something strange happened. Earlier that evening, a song had been playing on the car radio. Just a simple pop song, nothing special. Lily had heard it once, maybe twice. Now, sitting at that piano, she started playing the melody. Not perfectly, but close enough that everyone stopped talking. Her mother's friend asked if Lily had taken piano lessons. No, her mother said, feeling confused and a little scared. This was the first time her daughter had ever touched a piano. That night changed everything. Lily's parents didn't have much money, but they knew they had to do something. They found a used piano at a second-hand shop. It was old and scratched, and 2 of the keys stuck sometimes, but it worked. They put it in the corner of their small living room, right next to the dining table. Within weeks, Lily was teaching herself to play songs she heard on television, on the radio, anywhere. She didn't read music yet. She didn't know what notes were called. She just heard sounds and made her fingers copy them. Her parents asked around at the community center. Someone knew someone who gave piano lessons. That's how they met Mrs. Chen, a retired music teacher in her 70s who had taught piano for 40 years. Mrs. Chen agreed to meet Lily, but she didn't expect much. She had seen plenty of parents who thought their kids were special. Usually they were just ordinary children who liked music. The first lesson lasted 10 minutes before Mrs. Chen had to sit down. She felt dizzy, she said later. Not from illness, but from shock. She asked Lily to play something, anything. Lily played a song from a cartoon she liked. Then Mrs. Chen asked her to copy a simple rhythm by clapping. Lily did it perfectly. Then Mrs. Chen played a short melody and asked Lily to play it back. Lily did it on the first try. Then Mrs. Chen played something more complicated, a piece she had composed herself years ago, something Lily couldn't have heard before. Lily played it back with only 2 small mistakes. Mrs. Chen looked at Lily's mother with tears in her eyes. Your daughter, she said slowly, has what we call perfect pitch. Maybe 1 in 10,000 people have it. But more than that, she has something else. Something I've only seen twice in my whole career. She doesn't just hear music. She understands it. From that day forward, Mrs. Chen refused to accept payment for the lessons. This child, she said, was a gift. Teaching her wasn't work. It was an honor. Lily started learning to read music, to understand theory, to play properly. But she learned so fast that Mrs. Chen had to completely throw out her normal teaching methods. Things that took other students months to learn, Lily learned in days. Within a year, she was playing pieces that high school students struggled with. Within 2 years, she was performing music that college students practiced for months. The small apartment became Lily's world. She went to school like other kids, came home, did her homework, and then played piano for hours. She didn't seem to mind. While other children played video games or watched television, Lily sat at her old piano and lost herself in the music. Her parents worried sometimes. Was this normal? Should they make her go outside more, play with other kids? But whenever they suggested taking a break, Lily would look at them with confused eyes. Why would I want to stop? she would ask. This is what I love. Mrs. Chen watched Lily grow not just as a musician but as an artist. By the time Lily turned 8, she wasn't just playing notes on a page anymore. She was interpreting them, feeling them, making them her own. When she played sad music, people felt sad. When she played joyful music, people smiled without knowing why. The old teacher had seen talented students before, but this was different. This was something rare. One afternoon, after a particularly beautiful performance of a piece by Debussy, Mrs. Chen sat next to Lily on the piano bench. She was quiet for a long time, just thinking. Then she said something that would change everything. Have you ever heard of the ABRSM diploma? Lily shook her head. She didn't know what those letters meant, Mrs. Chen explained slowly. It was a test, she said. The hardest piano test in the world. It was created over 100 years ago in England by the most important music schools. Professional pianists took this test. Adult performers who had played for 20 or 30 years took this test. And many of them failed. It wasn't just about playing well. You had to be perfect. You had to know everything about music, history, theory. You had to sight-read pieces you'd never seen before. You had to perform under enormous pressure without making mistakes. Why are you telling me this? Lily asked. Because, Mrs. Chen said quietly. I think you could pass it. Lily looked at her teacher. She was 8 years old. She didn't fully understand what Mrs. Chen was saying, but she felt something in her chest, a flutter of excitement mixed with fear. Mrs. Chen continued. No one your age has ever passed this exam. Ever. In the whole history of the test. Most people don't even try until they're adults. But you're not like most people, Lily. You're special, and I think you could do something that no child has ever done before. The apartment was quiet except for the sound of traffic outside. Lily's mother had stopped cooking and was listening from the kitchen. The old piano sat waiting, its keys ready. Lily looked at those keys for a long moment. Then she looked up at Mrs. Chen with eyes that suddenly seemed older than 8 years. I want to try, she said simply, and with those 4 words, an impossible journey began. The next few days felt like a dream to Lily. She couldn't stop thinking about what Mrs. Chen had said. The hardest piano test in the world. Nobody her age had ever passed it. The idea was scary and exciting at the same time, like standing at the edge of a very tall diving board. But her parents needed to know what this really meant. So Mrs. Chen came to their apartment on a Sunday evening, bringing a thick folder full of papers. She spread them out on the small dining table, pushing aside the dinner plates. Lily's father came home early from his weekend shift. Her mother made tea. They all sat down together. Mrs. Chen started explaining. The ABRSM diploma wasn't like a regular piano test. It wasn't something you could just practice for and hope to pass. It was designed to separate true masters from everyone else. She pulled out a sheet of paper showing the requirements. There were 3 levels of diplomas, she explained. DIP ABRSM was the first level, the one she thought Lily should try for. But even this first level was incredibly difficult. What do they test? Lily's father asked. He was a practical man who fixed machines for a living. He wanted details. Mrs. Chen took a deep breath. First, you have to perform 3 pieces from memory, not simple pieces. These are works that concert pianists perform. One has to be from the Baroque period, that's composers like Bach. One from the classical or romantic period like Mozart or Chopin, and one can be more modern. Each piece takes 15 to 20 minutes to play perfectly. That's almost an hour of flawless performance, and you can't have the sheet music in front of you. Everything comes from memory. Lily's mother looked worried. What else? Then there's sight reading, Mrs. Chen continued. They give you a piece of music you've never seen before. You get a few minutes to look at it and then you have to play it. And it's not easy music. It's complex with difficult rhythms and notes. This tests whether you truly understand music or if you just memorize things. Lily sat quietly listening. Her hands were folded in her lap. There's also something called quick study, Mrs. Chen said. They give you a piece and you get 15 minutes to practice it. Then you perform it. After that, they ask you questions about it. Why did the composer write it this way? What period is it from? What's happening in the harmony? You need to know music history, music theory, everything. And if she makes mistakes? Her father asked. Mrs. Chen looked at him seriously. This exam doesn't allow for many mistakes. You can pass, but you won't get a good score. You can pass with merit if you're very good. But the highest level is called distinction. That means almost perfect. That means you performed at a professional level in every single section. The room went quiet. Outside they could hear children playing in the courtyard below. Normal children doing normal things. Lily's mother reached over and held her daughter's hand. "How much does this cost?" she asked quietly. Mrs. Chen had been expecting this question. The exam fee itself was expensive, but that was nothing compared to what came before. To prepare for this test, Lily would need intensive training. More lessons, longer lessons. She would need better books, better recordings to listen to, and their old piano, the one with the sticking keys, wouldn't be good enough anymore. To practice pieces at this level, Lily needed a better instrument. The numbers Mrs. Chen mentioned made Lily's parents go pale. They made car parts. They lived paycheck to paycheck. They had a little savings, money they were keeping for emergencies or maybe someday a better apartment. But there was something else, Mrs. Chen said. Something harder than money. Time. Lily would need to practice much more, at least 5 or 6 hours every day, maybe more as the exam got closer. That meant less time for other things. Less time for friends, for play, for just being a kid. "Is this even allowed?" Lily's father asked. "Can a child her age take this exam?" "Yes," Mrs. Chen said. "There's no age limit. But there's a reason no child has ever passed. It's not just about playing the piano well. You need maturity, emotional depth, an understanding of music that usually comes from years of life experience. When you play a piece about loss or love or longing, you have to make people feel those things. Can an 8-year-old do that?" Everyone looked at Lily. She had been so quiet that they'd almost forgotten she was there. Her small face was serious, thinking hard. "Can I say something?" she asked. "Of course, sweetheart," her mother said. Lily took a deep breath. "I know I'm just a kid. I know there are things I don't understand yet. But when I play piano, I feel things. Big things. When I play sad music, I think about the time our neighbor's cat died and how sad that little boy was. When I play angry music, I think about when kids at school are mean to each other. When I play happy music, I think about Sunday mornings when we all eat breakfast together." She paused, looking at each of them. "I don't know if that's enough, but I want to try. Even if I fail, I want to try." Her father rubbed his face with both hands. He looked tired. He worked so hard every single day to give his family a decent life. Now his daughter was asking him to gamble their savings on something that seemed impossible. But her mother saw something else. She saw the light in Lily's eyes, the same light that appeared every time her daughter sat at the piano. She squeezed her husband's hand under the table. "Let's do it," she said quietly. "We'll find a way." And so it began. Lily's father took extra shifts at the factory, working weekends and holidays. Her mother started doing alterations for neighbors, sewing late into the night for extra money. They found a better piano, not new but much better than their old one, and they squeezed it into their small living room. Now there was barely room to walk, but Lily had an instrument worthy of her talent. Mrs. Chen created a practice schedule that was intense. Lily woke up at 5:30 every morning and practiced for 2 hours before school. After school, she came straight home and practiced for another 4 hours with short breaks for dinner and homework. Her weekends disappeared into music. Scales, arpeggios, pieces, theory, history, everything. Word started to spread in their neighborhood. The little girl in apartment 3B was trying to do something impossible. Some people thought it was wonderful. They would stop Lily's parents in the hallway and tell them how proud they must be. But others whispered. They said the parents were pushing too hard. They said Lily should be playing with toys, not spending her whole childhood at a piano. They said it was sad, maybe even cruel. Lily heard some of these whispers. Kids at school definitely heard them. "And kids can be mean without even trying. Why don't you ever come to my birthday party?" one girl asked. "Are you too good for us now?" A boy in her class called her a robot. "You're not normal," he said. "You're like a machine." Those words hurt more than Lily wanted to admit. She started eating lunch alone, reading books in the corner of the playground while other kids played games. Her best friend from kindergarten, a girl named Amy, stopped calling. When Lily finally got the courage to ask why, Amy shrugged. "You're always busy. What's the point?" At home, Lily tried to stay positive. But some nights, after everyone was asleep, she would lie in bed and wonder if she was making a mistake. She missed playing tag. She missed birthday parties and sleepovers. She missed being normal. Mrs. Chen noticed the sadness creeping in. One day, after a particularly difficult practice session, she sat Lily down. You can stop, she said gently. Nobody will be angry. Nobody will be disappointed. This is your choice always. Lily thought about it. She really did. For almost a full minute, she sat there in silence, thinking about what her life could be like if she just quit. Easy, fun, normal. Then she put her hands back on the keys. I'm not stopping, she said. Not yet. 3 months into the preparation, Mrs. Chen made an announcement. She had contacted a professional pianist, a man named Mr. Liu who had studied at famous music schools and performed in concert halls around the world. He had agreed to give Lily additional lessons once a week. This would cost more money her parents didn't have. But Lily's father had already decided. He took a second job doing night security at an office building. He would work at the factory during the day and guard an empty building at night, sleeping only a few hours in between. When Lily found out, she cried. Not because she was happy, but because she felt guilty. Dad, you don't have to do this, she said. He knelt down and looked her in the eyes. Yes, I do. Because you're doing something brave, and brave people need support. Mr. Liu's first lesson was intimidating. He was tall and serious, and he didn't smile much. He listened to Lily play, his face showing nothing. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. You have talent. Real talent. But talent is not enough for this exam. They will try to break you. They will look for every weakness, every flaw. We have 8 months to make you unbreakable. 8 months. That's all the time they had. The exam date was set. The location was confirmed. Now there was no going back. Lily Wang, 8 years old, had committed to attempting something that had defeated thousands of adult musicians. The real work was about to begin. Winter came early that year. The apartment was cold in the mornings, and Lily's fingers felt stiff when she first sat down to practice. Her mother would boil water and have her soak her hands before starting, trying to keep them warm and flexible. Every degree mattered now. Every small detail could make the difference between success and failure. Mr. Liu was a demanding teacher. Where Mrs. Chen had been encouraging and gentle, he was strict and precise. He didn't care if Lily was tired. He didn't care if her fingers hurt. When she made a mistake, he would stop her immediately. Again, he would say, from the top, and Lily would start over, sometimes playing the same section 20 or 30 times until it was perfect. The 3 pieces she had chosen for the exam were becoming her whole world. The first was a Bach prelude and fugue, full of complex voices that had to be played independently while somehow sounding like one beautiful whole. The second was a Chopin ballad, romantic and dramatic, requiring both delicate touch and powerful emotion. The third was a modern piece by a composer named Prokofiev, sharp and aggressive and technically brutal. Each piece was a mountain to climb, and she had to climb all 3 perfectly, one after another from memory without falling. Mr. Liu made her practice in different ways. Sometimes he would turn off all the lights and make her play in the dark, so she had to rely purely on muscle memory and feeling. Sometimes he would play loud music on a speaker while she practiced, teaching her to focus despite distractions. Once he had her mother suddenly open the door and shout during a performance, simulating the kind of unexpected disruption that might happen during the actual exam. Why are you doing this? Lily asked him one day, frustrated and close to tears. Because the exam room won't be comfortable, he said flatly. There will be 3 examiners watching your every move. The piano might not feel right. The bench might be too high or too low. Something will go wrong and you need to keep playing anyway. I'm not being mean. I'm preparing you for reality. At school, things got worse. Lily's teachers noticed she was falling asleep in class. Her grades started dropping. She forgot to turn in homework assignments. During recess, other kids would see her sitting alone, her fingers moving silently as if she was playing an invisible piano. The school counselor called her parents in for a meeting. Is everything okay at home? The counselor asked carefully. We're concerned about Lily. She seems isolated, stressed. This isn't normal behavior for a child her age. Lily's mother felt defensive but also guilty. She's preparing for something important, she explained. A piano examination. It's temporary, the counselor frowned. With respect, childhood isn't temporary. She only gets one. Are you sure this is what's best for her? That question haunted Lily's mother for days. Was this best? Or were they pushing their daughter too hard, stealing her childhood for their own pride? That night she watched Lily practice. She saw the determined look on her daughter's face, but she also saw the dark circles under her eyes, the way her shoulders slumped with exhaustion. 5 months before the exam, Lily got sick. It started as a small cough, but quickly became worse. The doctor said it was bronchitis and ordered complete rest. No piano for at least 2 weeks, maybe more. Lily was devastated. 2 weeks of not practicing felt like forever. She would fall behind. She would forget things. Mr. Liu had warned her that at this level, even a few days away from the piano could set you back significantly. But her body had made the choice for her. She was too weak to sit at the piano anyway. For the first time in months, Lily spent her days doing nothing. She lay on the couch watching the ceiling, listening to her mother move around the apartment. She could hear the piano sitting silent in the corner, almost like it was calling to her. During those 2 weeks, something strange happened. Lily started thinking about why she was doing this. Not the surface reasons, not because Mrs. Chen believed in her, or because her parents were sacrificing so much, but the real reason, deep down, she realized something. She loved piano. But somewhere along the way, with all the pressure and schedules and demands, she had stopped enjoying it. It had become work. Hard, exhausting, stressful work. When was the last time she had played just for fun? When was the last time she had smiled while playing? When she finally recovered and sat back down at the piano, her mother noticed something different. Lily played her required pieces, but then she did something she hadn't done in months. She played a simple song, one she had learned years ago when she was just starting, a children's song about sunshine and flowers. She played it slowly, letting herself feel each note, remembering why she had fallen in love with music in the first place. Mrs. Chen noticed the change too. There was something softer in Lily's playing now, something more genuine. The technical skill was still there, but the emotion was different, better. Mr. Liu, however, was not pleased. "You're getting soft," he said bluntly. "This exam requires perfection, not feelings. You need to be harder, stronger, more focused." But Mrs. Chen disagreed. She pulled Mr. Liu aside after a lesson and spoke to him privately. "You're training her like a machine," she said. "But the exam isn't just about technical perfection. It's about artistry, and artistry requires heart." They argued for almost an hour. Finally, they reached a compromise. Mr. Liu would continue to push Lily technically, but he would also give her space to find her own interpretation, her own voice in the music. 3 months before the exam, news of what Lily was attempting started spreading beyond their neighborhood. A local newspaper heard about it and wanted to do a story. 8-year-old attempts world's hardest piano exam. Lily's parents weren't sure if they should allow it. They were private people who didn't like attention, but Mrs. Chen convinced them. "Let people know what she's doing," she said. "Maybe it will inspire others. Maybe it will help people understand why this matters." The article came out on a Sunday. Lily's picture was on the front page of the local section, sitting at her piano looking small and determined. The story talked about her talent, her family's sacrifices, her dream to make history. The response was overwhelming. Some people sent encouraging messages. Some sent small donations to help with costs. One person even offered to donate a better piano, though Lily's parents politely declined. But there were also negative responses. People who said this was child abuse, that Lily was being exploited, that her parents should be ashamed. The criticism hurt. Lily's father stopped reading the comments online. Her mother stopped answering questions from curious neighbors. They tried to shield Lily from the negativity, but she heard some of it anyway. She heard people saying she was going to fail. She heard people saying her parents were terrible. She heard people making bets about how badly she would do. One afternoon, Lily came home from school crying. Someone had found the article and shared it with her whole class. Kids were teasing her, calling her a show-off, saying she thought she was better than everyone else. One boy said he hoped she would fail so she would stop being so weird. That night, Lily sat at the dinner table and couldn't eat. Her father tried to make her laugh. Her mother tried to comfort her, but Lily just sat there staring at her plate, tears rolling down her cheeks. Finally, she looked up at her parents. "I don't know if I can do this anymore," she whispered. The room went completely silent. This was the moment they had been afraid of. The breaking point. Her mother knelt beside her chair. "You don't have to," she said softly. "We can stop right now. We can cancel the exam. We can go back to normal life. We'll return the piano. Dad can quit his second job. You can go back to being a regular kid." But what about all the money you spent? Lily asked. What about all the time? What about everything? Her father shook his head. Money can be earned again. Time is already gone, we can't get it back. But you're what matters. Not the exam. Not what people think. Lily cried harder. Because she knew they meant it. They would really stop if she asked. They would give up this dream without hesitation if it meant she could be happy. She cried for a long time. Her parents held her, not saying anything, just being there. Outside, the city continued its normal rhythm. Cars passed. People walked. Life went on. Finally, Lily pulled away and wiped her eyes. She looked at the piano in the corner. Then she looked at her parents. I want to keep going, she said quietly. Not because I have to. Not because of the money or the time or what people think. But because I want to know if I can do it. I want to know if I'm strong enough. Her parents looked at each other. Then they nodded. Okay, her mother said. But we do this together. And the moment it becomes too much, the moment it stops being worth it, we stop. Deal, Lily said. 2 months remained. The hardest part of the journey was still ahead. The final 2 months passed in a blur. Lily practiced with a new kind of focus. Not the desperate grinding focus from before, but something calmer and deeper. She had made peace with whatever would happen. She would do her absolute best, and that would have to be enough. Mrs. Chen and Mr. Liu created a final preparation plan. They did mock exams every week, simulating the real thing as closely as possible. They borrowed a fancy hall from a local music school. They brought in people to sit and watch, creating the pressure of an audience. They timed everything exactly as it would be on exam day. The first mock exam was a disaster. Lily's hands shook so badly she could barely play. She forgot a section of the Bach piece completely and had to stop. When it came time for sight reading, her mind went blank. She stared at the music but couldn't make sense of the notes. She ran out of the room crying, but Mr. Liu didn't let her give up. This is good, he said, which seemed crazy to Lily. You needed to fall apart once in practice, not on the real day. Now you know what panic feels like. Now we can train you to push through it. They did breathing exercises, meditation, visualization techniques. Before each practice session, Lily would sit quietly and imagine herself in the exam room, feeling nervous but staying calm. She imagined her fingers playing perfectly even though her heart was racing. She practiced being afraid and playing anyway. The second mock exam went better. The third one was almost good. By the fifth one, Lily was performing at a level that made both her teachers stop and look at each other with something like hope in their eyes. 1 month before the exam, they had to book flights. The test was being held in London, at a prestigious music school called Trinity College. Lily had never been on a plane before. She had never left her country before. Her parents applied for passports, filled out paperwork, saved every extra penny for the trip. The whole thing felt surreal. This small family from a small apartment was going to fly across the world, so their 8-year-old daughter could attempt something impossible. 3 weeks before departure, Mr. Liu had one final lesson with Lily. He had been hard on her for months, pushing her relentlessly, never satisfied, always demanding more. But on this day, something was different. He sat next to her at the piano and was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. When I was young, he said, I took this same exam. I was 23 years old. I had trained my whole life. And I failed. Lily looked at him surprised. She had never heard this story. I failed because I was too afraid, he continued. I played perfectly in practice, but when I sat in that exam room, all I could think about was not making mistakes. And when you play afraid, the music dies. It becomes just notes on a page. He turned to look at her. You're 8 years old. You're a child. On paper, you have no business taking this exam. But I've watched you grow these past months, and I've seen something in you that I didn't have when I was 23. You play with your whole heart. Even when you're scared, even when you're tired, you play like you mean it. He stood up to leave. Win or lose, he said, you've already done something remarkable. You've shown more courage than most people show in their entire lives. I'm proud to have taught you. After he left, Lily sat at the piano for a long time. She played through all 3 of her pieces, not practicing, just playing. And for the first time in weeks, she smiled while she played. The night before they left for London, Lily couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing through every piece, every difficult passage, everything that could go wrong. She heard her father get up for his night security shift. She heard her mother moving quietly in the kitchen, preparing food for the trip. At some point near dawn, she must have fallen asleep, because suddenly her mother was shaking her awake. "Time to go, sweetheart. The taxi is waiting." The airport was overwhelming. So many people, so much noise, so many lights and screens and announcements. Lily held her mother's hand tightly, afraid of getting lost. On the plane, she pressed her face to the window and watched her city disappear below the clouds. Everything she knew was down there, getting smaller and smaller until it vanished completely. The flight was long. Lily tried to sleep but couldn't. She kept thinking about the exam. Her father noticed her nervous fingers tapping rhythms on the armrest. He put his hand over hers. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "we'll be proud of you. You know that, right?" She nodded, but she wasn't sure she believed it. How could they be proud if she failed, after everything they had sacrificed? London was cold and gray when they arrived. The hotel was small but clean, near the college where the exam would take place. They had 2 days before the test. Mrs. Chen, who had flown separately, met them there. She had arranged for Lily to practice at the college, to get familiar with the piano she would be playing. The practice room was beautiful, but intimidating. The piano was a grand Steinway, much finer than anything Lily had ever played. Her first attempt sounded too loud, too harsh. The instrument was so sensitive that every tiny movement of her fingers produced sound. It took hours to adjust, to learn its personality, to make friends with it. That night, Lily barely ate dinner. Her stomach was in knots. She kept running through the pieces in her mind, terrified she would forget something. Her mother ran her a bath and sat with her, talking about anything except piano. They talked about the funny accents people had here. They talked about the strange food. They talked about the pigeons in the park that weren't afraid of people. The morning of the exam arrived too quickly. Lily woke up feeling like she might throw up. She couldn't eat breakfast. She couldn't focus on anything. Her hands felt strange, like they belonged to someone else. Mrs. Chen arrived early to help her get ready. She had brought a special dress for Lily to wear, dark blue and formal with room to move at the piano. Lily's mother braided her hair carefully, trying to keep her hands from shaking. The walk to the college felt like a dream. Everything seemed too bright, too loud, too real. Other people walked past them on the street, going about normal days, having no idea that Lily's whole world was about to change one way or another. Inside the college, they were directed to a waiting room. There were other candidates there, all adults, all looking nervous. They stared at Lily with confusion and curiosity. "A child," their faces seemed to say. "What is a child doing here?" A stern woman with a clipboard came in. She called names one by one, and people disappeared through a heavy wooden door. Each time the door opened, Lily could hear the faint sound of piano music from somewhere deeper in the building. Then the woman looked at her clipboard and called out Lily's name. Her voice was formal and showed no emotion. The door was open. It was time. Lily stood up. Her legs felt weak. Her mother hugged her tightly. "Your whole life, whatever happens in there, we love you." Mrs. Chen squeezed her hand. "Remember," she whispered, "play with your heart." Her father knelt down so he was eye level with her. "You've got this, kiddo. Just do what you do every day at home. Pretend it's just you and the piano, nobody else." Lily nodded. She couldn't speak. If she tried to talk, she might cry, and she couldn't cry now. She had to be strong. She walked toward the door. Each step felt heavy. The stern woman held the door open, waiting. Lily took one last look back at her parents and her teacher. They all had the same expression, a mixture of hope and fear and love. Then she walked through the door, and it closed behind her with a soft final click. The hallway beyond was quiet and elegant, with old wooden floors and portraits of famous musicians on the walls. The woman led her down the hall, their footsteps echoing. They turned a corner, then another. Finally, they stopped in front of another door. "This is the examination room," the woman said. "The examiners are waiting inside. You'll have a moment to adjust the bench and prepare yourself. Then you'll perform your 3 pieces in the order you've submitted. After that will be the sight reading and quick study sections, followed by questions. Do you understand?" Lily's mouth was dry. She managed to nod. The woman opened the door. The room was smaller than Lily expected. There was the beautiful Steinway piano she had practiced on yesterday. There were 3 people sitting behind a long table, 2 men and 1 woman, all older, all wearing serious expressions. They had papers and pens in front of them. The afternoon light came through tall windows, making everything look formal and important. One of the men, the one in the middle, looked at Lily over his glasses. He seemed surprised by how young she was, but he didn't say anything about it. "Please," he said, gesturing to the piano. "Take a seat. Adjust the bench as you need. When you're ready, you may begin with your first piece." Lily walked to the piano. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. She sat down and adjusted the bench, but her mind was suddenly blank. What was her first piece? For a terrifying moment, she couldn't remember. Then it came back. Bach. The Prelude and Fugue. She had played it 1,000 times. She knew every note, every voice, every moment. She placed her hands on the keys. They felt cool and smooth and familiar. She took a breath and another, remembering all the practice, all the preparation, all the love and sacrifice that had brought her to this moment. Then Lily closed her eyes and began to play. The first notes of the Bach Prelude filled the room, and something magical happened. All of Lily's fear disappeared. It was just her and the music now, the way it had always been. Her fingers moved across the keys with confidence, each voice in the fugue clear and distinct, weaving together like a conversation between old friends. She forgot about the 3 examiners watching her. She forgot about the pressure and the expectations. She even forgot she was in London, thousands of miles from home. There was only the piano and the music flowing through her. The Bach piece ended. The room was silent for a moment. Lily opened her eyes and glanced at the examiners. Their faces showed nothing, but one of them was writing notes quickly. She couldn't tell if that was good or bad. "Your second piece, please," the man in the middle said. Lily adjusted her posture and prepared for the Chopin ballad. This one was different from the Bach. Where Bach was mathematical and precise, Chopin was emotional and dramatic. It required her to tell a story, to make people feel something deep. She began softly, the melody tender and questioning, like a whisper. Then it grew, building in intensity, becoming passionate and urgent. Her whole body moved with the music. She leaned into the dramatic moments, pulled back for the gentle ones. She poured everything into it. Every lonely lunch period at school, every sacrifice her parents had made, every doubt she had overcome. When she reached the final triumphant section, her fingers flew across the keys with power she didn't know she had. The last chord rang out, strong and definite, and then faded into silence. This time, when she looked at the examiners, the woman was leaning forward slightly, her pen still. Lily couldn't be sure, but she thought she saw the hint of a smile. "One more piece," the man said. "Take your time." The Prokofiev was the hardest technically. It was sharp and modern, full of unexpected rhythms and aggressive chords. It was the piece she had worried about most. But as her fingers attacked the keys, all that worry melted away. She played it with fierce determination, not afraid of being loud, not afraid of being bold. The final notes crashed out like thunder. Lily's hands were actually tired now, something that rarely happened. She had given everything she had. "Very well," the man said. "We'll now move to the sight-reading portion." They placed a piece of music in front of her that she had never seen before. It looked complicated, with strange time signatures and unexpected key changes. She had 3 minutes to study it. Lily's eyes scanned the page, her brain working fast. She hummed the melody silently, figured out the tricky rhythms, marked the dangerous spots in her mind. When time was up, she took a breath and played it. It wasn't perfect. She stumbled once in a particularly awkward section, but she kept going, didn't stop, made it through to the end. It was solid, if not spectacular. Next came the quick study section. They gave her a new piece and 15 minutes to practice it alone in a small side room. The pressure was intense. 15 minutes to learn something well enough to perform it. 15 minutes to understand it deeply enough to answer questions about it. When she returned to perform it, she made a few small mistakes, but her interpretation was thoughtful. She had found the heart of the piece and played it honestly. Then came the questions. The 3 examiners asked her about music theory, about the historical context of her pieces, about harmonic progressions and compositional techniques. These were university-level questions, topics that college students studied. But Lily had prepared for this. She answered carefully, taking her time, explaining her thoughts clearly. When she didn't know something for certain, she said so rather than guessing. When she did know, she spoke with confidence. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only 3, the man in the middle set down his pen. "Thank you," he said simply. "That concludes your examination. You may go. Results will be sent within 6 weeks, that was it." No feedback. No hints about how she had done. Just a polite dismissal. Lily stood up from the piano bench. Her legs felt strange after sitting so long. She managed a small bow like Mrs. Chen had taught her, and walked to the door. Her hands were shaking again now that it was over. When she stepped into the waiting room, her parents jumped up. Her mother's eyes were red like she had been crying. Her father looked like he had aged 10 years. Mrs. Chen stood behind them, gripping her purse tightly. "How did it go?" her mother asked desperately. Lily thought about it.
How did it go?
She had no idea. She had played well, she thought. But was it good enough? Had she made too many mistakes? Had her answers been right? "I don't know," she said honestly. "I tried my best." Her father swept her up in a huge hug. "That's all we ever asked," he said, his voice thick with emotion. They left the college and walked out into the London afternoon. The world looked different now, brighter somehow. Whether Lily had passed or failed, the exam was over. The months of pressure and practice and sacrifice had led to this moment, and now it was done. That evening, they went to a nice restaurant, something they almost never did. Her parents let Lily order whatever she wanted. They talked and laughed, and for the first time in months, nobody mentioned piano. They were just a family having dinner together in a foreign city, enjoying each other's company. The flight home the next day felt different from the flight there. Lily slept most of the way, exhausted but peaceful. She had done something most people would never even attempt. Whether she passed or not, that meant something. Back home, life tried to return to normal, but nothing felt quite the same. Lily still practiced piano every day, but now it was different. Lighter, more joyful. She played pieces she wanted to play, not just what she had to play. She even started composing her own simple melodies. At school, word had spread that she was back from London. Some kids asked her about it. She told them honestly that she didn't know if she had passed. They would have to wait for the results. The waiting was hard. 6 weeks felt like forever. Every day, Lily's mother checked the mail eagerly. But weeks passed with nothing. Lily tried not to think about it too much. She went to a birthday party for the first time in months. She played tag at recess. She did her homework without falling asleep. She even made a new friend, a quiet girl named Jen who liked drawing and didn't care about piano at all. 5 weeks passed, then 5.5. Lily started to wonder if the results had gotten lost somehow. Maybe they had sent them to the wrong address. Maybe something had gone wrong. Then one Saturday morning, her mother's phone rang. It was Mrs. Chen, and she sounded strange. Excited, but also like she was trying not to cry. "The results are here," she said. "They sent them to me since I was listed as your teacher. Do you want me to tell you? Or do you want to come over and open them together?" Lily's heart started pounding. This was it. After all the months of work, all the sacrifice, all the fear and hope, she was about to find out. "Come over," her mother said. "We'll all be there in 10 minutes. The drive to Mrs. Chen's house was the longest 10 minutes of Lily's life. Her father drove carefully, but Lily wished he would go faster. Her mother kept reaching back to squeeze her hand. Nobody spoke. There was nothing to say. Mrs. Chen was waiting at her door holding a large envelope. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes were already wet with tears, but Lily couldn't tell if they were happy or sad tears. They all gathered in Mrs. Chen's small living room, the same room where Lily had first played piano for her years ago. Mrs. Chen held out the envelope. "You should open it," she said to Lily. Lily took the envelope. It was heavier than she expected. Official looking, with the ABRSM seal on it. Her hand shook so badly she could barely get it open. Her father had to help her. Inside were several papers. Lily pulled them out and looked at the top sheet. There were numbers and marks and official stamps, but her eyes went immediately to one word at the top of the page, printed in bold letters. Distinction. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Lily stared at the word, not quite believing it was real. "What does that mean?" she whispered. Mrs. Chen's tears were flowing freely now, and these were definitely happy tears. "It means you didn't just pass," she said, her voice breaking. "It means you achieved the highest possible grade. It means you were nearly perfect." Lily looked at the paper again. Below the word distinction were her scores for each section. All of them were high, some nearly perfect. The comments from the examiners used words like exceptional, remarkable, mature interpretation, outstanding technical command. But it was the final line that made Lily start crying too. It read, "At 8 years of age, this candidate has demonstrated musical understanding and technical ability far beyond her years. A truly extraordinary achievement." Her mother grabbed her and held her tight. Her father wrapped his arms around both of them. Mrs. Chen joined the hug, and they all stood there in a tight circle, crying and laughing at the same time. When they finally pulled apart, Lily's father looked at her with wonder in his eyes. "You did it," he said simply. "You actually did it." And Lily realized something important in that moment. She hadn't done it alone. Every morning her father had gotten up exhausted from his night shift. Every evening her mother had sewn late into the night. Every lesson Mrs. Chen had taught her with love and patience. Every hour Mr. Liu had pushed her to be better. Every sacrifice, every encouragement, every moment of support had brought her here. The news spread fast. By that evening, their phone was ringing constantly. The newspaper wanted another interview. Television stations were calling. Music schools were offering scholarships for her future. Everyone wanted to talk to the 8-year-old who had made history. But that night, after all the calls and excitement had died down, Lily sat at her old piano in their small apartment. The same piano where she had practiced for thousands of hours. The same piano where she had cried and struggled and grown. She didn't play any of her exam pieces. Instead, she played the simple children's song about sunshine and flowers, the one that reminded her why she loved music in the first place. And as she played, her parents sat on the couch behind her, holding hands, listening. They had started this journey not knowing where it would lead. They had sacrificed and worried and doubted, but in the end, they had given their daughter something precious. Not just the chance to pass an exam, but the chance to discover what she was truly capable of. The chance to push beyond what seemed possible. The chance to dream big and work hard and never give up. Lily finished playing and turned around. Her parents were smiling at her with so much love and pride that it almost hurt to look at. "Can I take a break from serious practice for a while?" she asked. "Maybe just play for fun?" Her mother laughed, wiping away fresh tears. "Sweetheart, you can do whatever you want." And for the first time in a very long time, Lily felt completely, perfectly free.